The Civil War marks the first time in world history when two opposing air forces were aloft at the same time. Balloons were a very entertaining novelty during the antebellum years, but very few Southerners actually saw them, and even fewer actually went up in one.
Ballooning during the Civil War is the first effort at aerial reconnaissance. Of course, we do aerial reconnaissance today through satellites, through airplanes, a variety of means. But all of that begins during the Civil War with a handful of aeronauts and balloons. The first Confederate balloon is a hot air balloon. That makes it unique in the Civil War. It is the only balloon that is an actual hot air balloon. The Confederates use it early in the war. We know very little about it. It was privately owned. We do not know who the owner was. We think that General Beauregard financed its use. And General Johnston, who of course is leading Confederate forces early in the Peninsula Campaign, was impressed with the balloon. So he wants the balloon there, and apparently it is delivered. What he doesn't have is an aeronaut for it. So what Johnson does is he sends a message to General Magruder, who is leading Confederate troops around Tidewater. And that message says that he's looking for somebody familiar with that area for some special reconnaissance duty. Now, this message passes through the hands of Captain John Randolph Bryan. And he looks at this message and he thinks that this is going to be a way for him to distinguish himself in some sort of special assignment. So he actually goes to Magruder and volunteers for this. And Magruder agrees and allows him to report to General Johnston. And apparently Randolph is horrified as he hears Johnson tell his aides to get Captain Bryan ready for the balloon. Johnson tells him something along the lines of, "You will follow your orders," and without question. And so John Randolph Bryan flies this hot air balloon during the Peninsula Campaign. There is a day when, as he's taking off, a ground crewman gets his leg caught in one of the tether ropes. And as this fellow is being lifted off the ground, a quick-thinking soldier cuts that rope, and Bryan makes his one and only free balloon flight of the war. But eventually comes down apparently somewhere behind the Union lines. He finds a farmer, borrows a horse, and makes his way back to General Johnston. But at that point, that balloon is captured and is lost. There is no more mention of it in the war. The Confederate Army had a great balloon patron in General James Longstreet. When Longstreet heard that the balloon had been lost, he suggested that the Confederates build their own.
They did not have the proper material with which to make a balloon. Balloons at this time did require a heavy, strong material, which they could not find. So they turned to silk dress material, not dresses as the myth would later grow. But they purchased $514 worth of silk dress material and constructed a small one-man aircraft out of this.
Edward Porter Alexander is chosen to be the aeronaut for this balloon, and incidentally it does have a name. The Confederates called it Gazelle, and Edward Porter Alexander will fly it. Most of the balloons in the Civil War used as a lifting agent either hydrogen or coal gas. In this case, the silk dress balloon is going to be filled with coal gas from the Richmond Gas Works here in Richmond. It gets to Richmond in time for the 7 days battles. It's filled at the Richmond Gas Works. It's taken by rail to the battlefield site and is used throughout the 7 days battles.
A few days later, it was boarded onto a ship, the CSS Teaser, for transport to the Malvern Hill battlefield area.
July 4th, 1862, the Gazelle makes its last flight. It gets up in the air and starts leaking immediately, and at that point, Alexander tells us they can no longer keep it in the air, so they bring it back down and deflate it on the Teaser.
The Teaser was accidentally grounded on a sandbar and was later sighted by a Union ship who fired 2 shots, blew up half of the boat, and the Union troops went aboard and captured everything on it. And according to their list of captured gear, 1 balloon made of silk dresses. The Federals sent the remnants of the balloon to Thaddeus Lowe, who was the Union balloonist, who was then recovering from malaria in Washington, D.C. Lowe's son, Leon, donated a scrap of that balloon to the Museum of the Confederacy in 1930.